Hi, my name's Nick English, one of the co-founders of the Bremont Watch Company. Here today to talk to you a little bit about my love of all things engineering, including my love of bikes, a little quick tour around my garage here, but then come and have a glimpse into our workshop and just down the road in Henley-on-Thames and see where we're making these watches on British soil. Obviously, Bremont have a lovely relationship with Bike Shed through Charlie, who's actually been ambassador of Bremont for over a decade now, and obviously Dutch, Vicky, all brilliant people. So it's great having you guys here, but I thought I'd talk through, there's nothing particularly valuable, special here in terms of bikes, but they're all very special to me. And I think my brother and I grew up in a workshop with our father. He was an aeronautical engineer, and a whole sort of upbringing was spending time tinkering in the workshop with him. So restoring old planes we still fly, clocks, obviously watches were a big thing of ours, but also bikes and cars. And the lovely thing about bikes is they're, completely mechanical. All of these things are tied by the love of engineering. My love of bikes sort of stem mostly with British bikes, and I've had this bike here for probably over 20 something years, and I restored it when I first got it. And this is a BSA M20. It's from 1939. Actually, this one was in the deserts of Africa during the Second World War. So, it's not particularly quick, but it's single cylinder, 500cc. I think in the war they made up to, I think the British Army had over 120,000 of these. I think also around the world you can still see some of them being used. And it's lovely. I think it'd probably run off butter if you wanted to. And I'll start it later so you can hear it as I go. But as I go, you'll sort of, fingers crossed, it'll sort of kick over first time. It's a really fun machine. The other one I have here next to it is something which I've had for a few years. But this is limited edition Norton, 960cc, quite a rorty thing. It's again, what I love is the fact that being built in the UK, most of it, and it's again a British bike, incredible mark, and it's actually a really comfortable seating position. So I can start it up for you. This one had the carbon wheels and things. I don't know if that makes any difference whatsoever, but it looks quite cool. But if I start it up for you. So that sounds quite good. I quite like them. It used to have the Limited came with the longer pipes, and we put the smaller ones on purely just for the noise. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it does sound fantastic. But one of my fave bikes is this one over here. This is this one here. I lived in LA for a very small period of time, for a few months, and the traffic in LA is horrendous. And I was walking past a pawnbrokers one day. I saw this sort of sign saying, T100C, which is obviously what this is, 1970. And not wanting to date myself too much, that's actually my year of birth. So I thought, oh God, I felt this incredible affinity with this bike day one. I love it. It's so comfortable. I love the fact, they're interesting bikes. I think the vast majority of them in the early years, the late 60s, early 70s, went out to America. So, and they developed from there, but it is a lovely bike, and you can see the evolution of the Trance over the years. Again, it's easy to tinker. Funnily enough, I've just had the carb off. I need to sort something out, so it's not starting at the moment. But that's always the case, isn't it, with bikes? There's always one or two that don't start. But I've got one over here. I've got to show you this one. This one over here is quite fun. This is, I've got 3 kids, and 12, 13 years old. And we've always loved these things. When I was a kid and I used to go on my French exchange, we used to go around to these, I don't know how you pronounce it, I think it's pooch, we call it pooch in the family. But you, 2-stroke engine, you hop on it and it's so much fun. I might be able to start this one up for you. It's quite, it normally goes, maybe just see if I can get this thing. It is hilarious. There you go. So, but it's a huge amount of fun, really good fun. And you can pop along at about 25, 30 miles an hour up and down the roads. So that's the Pooch, which I love. And I think if you're keen, I'll come show you around the Bremont facility. Now it's a very different workshop to this, and it's something you probably haven't seen before in this country. But perhaps we'll head off on this thing, and I'll come follow me there. I'll just take this outside, and hopefully this one will start. It's always a bit of a risk. Very different sound to the Norton with this single cylinder. And you've always got to be careful not to flood these engines. Fingers crossed. Just priming it up here. I'll see you at the workshop. Here we are at Bremont HQ. We've got two facilities. One is about 10 minutes away from here, where we make a lot of the watch parts. And here, which I'll show you inside, is where we make all the watches. So everything's assembled in here, and we have a lot of after sales. So in here, you're not going to see people with oil and grease all over their hands. It's all very much sort of lab conditions. So come inside, I'll show you what it's about. There's incredible history of British watchmaking in the UK. If you go back 100 years, probably 60% of the world's clocks and sort of pocket watches were made in the UK. Rolex started in Clerkenwell in 1905, and we lost it gradually through 2 world wars. But what Bremont's about is very much about trying to bring as much of this back to British shores as we can. So if you follow me through here, I'll take you and I'll show you a little quick journey of how our watches are put together. So what happens, parts from, I guess, all over the company will come here, put together into kits, and then a watchmaker will take responsibility for putting these kits together into watches. So here we have Ash putting a watch together, a very relevant one actually, since we've been talking about motorbikes earlier, and this is one we're doing for the TT, which we're very delighted to be involved with, obviously being bike fanatics as well. So we're timing partners for this year's TT on the Isle of Man, which is quite exciting. What are you doing here, Joe? You're putting some cases together.
Yeah, Alt-1C cases.
Alt-1C cases. So what we'll have here, if I pick this up, this is a case which has been manufactured at our other facility. Now, human hair is 50, 60 microns, and we're machining to 3 or 4 microns consistently. So you're dealing with really, really small tolerances. But it doesn't just have to work. We only make mechanical watches, we only make chronometers, which is a watch which is tested to +6, -4 seconds a day, but they also have to look good. So you're effectively making something which has to work and look good, and it's fairly obvious when a watch doesn't work, unfortunately. And then here, for example, we've got watches being tested. This is a number of Jaguar watches, Mark II Jaguar, and this machine here will mimic a wrist in terms of different positions, up, dial down, dial up, left and right, and all the data from this machine will be stored here, and then you have an average over the 24-hour period. And considering there's 86,400 seconds a day, when you're producing something which is an average of, 2.9 seconds fast a day, it's a pretty special thing for a mechanical device. And if you come through here, also different machinery too as well. So here we've got a big old, I suppose it's a water pressure tester, but this is quite a special one because it can take 60 watches down to more than 2 kilometers. So about 20% of Bremont's business is military around the world, and you're dealing with a lot of clearance divers, you've got North Sea rig divers, you've got SF guys around the world, and you can't give them a watch which is ever going to let water in, and this will make sure that that doesn't happen. And then again, you'll see watches in different stages. So, got Quinn here. What are you doing here, Quinn? You're doing some
stems and some crowns, so they're the perfect sort of size. So it should sit perfectly just up against.
So there you can see the sort of the finish and the movement, and you're dealing with several hundred moving parts or a few hundred moving parts in a watch and a chronograph especially, and finish is everything. And what watch are you doing here? This is
the new Jaguar D-Type.
So some more Jaguar. There's a lot of Jaguar today. It's perfect for motorsport, isn't it? And this is coming out in the next couple of weeks, so hot off the press. This machine here is automatically putting hands on a dial, which is a incredibly, there's so much finesse in this machine. You're dealing again with such small tolerances. So something which, when we have a large batch of watches, a new release, we can use this machine, which helps automate, but it gives exactly the right pressure, the hand alignment. It's a very, very, very interesting machine. Not many of those around in the UK. You've seen some of the watch assembly. I'll now show you some of the other side of the room. So what you saw through there, you've got some incredible individuals which we've trained up in-house putting these watches together. But what happens when a watch needs a service or perhaps a repair? It's a very different skill set, and the people in this room probably have an average of 20, 30 years experience. Come from different watch brands in the past, you know, it might be the Megas, Patek, the JLCs, and we're lucky enough to have them here at Bremont. And everything we do in terms of servicing happens in-house. So if you take a mechanical watch and you break it down into its constituent parts, you'll have something that looks a bit like this. You'll have main plates, bridges, and this sort of thing you'll see being made, trialed in the other facility. But also, you've got mainsprings and barrels and screws and escapements and balance wheels. You're dealing with many, many small parts. That doesn't include all the jewels set in there as well. And that's just the movement. And obviously you have the case back, Faraday cages and D-rings and gaskets and hands and crystals. There's a lot of moving and complex parts in any watch. But what happens when you want to bring a watch in for a service? You'll have someone like Dave here, who's, hi Dave.
Hi.
Servicing a watch. So a watch will be coming for a service, probably every 4 or 5 years, and it'll be put back together, completely cleaned, and then up to sort of 8 different oils used to lubricate the watch as it's put back together, and then it's obviously tested for a huge amount of time. That's the barrel going in with the mainspring inside, and that's effectively the power for the watch. That's the engine of the watch, and all the power comes from that incredible spring. But you see how steady, rock steady. So there you have it. This is some of the watchmaking we're doing in the UK. But if you want to see more, do come to the Bike Shed show where Bremont are going to be there as well. I think it's the 24th, 25th, 26th of May. And if you can't make that, come to the TT, which is obviously the end of May. And we're going to be there too. So thank you very much for listening.
Mama say, don't you forget your name. Keep your feet on the ground. Don't mess with the downward bound when you're gone all night. Hold your love real tight. Just remember you never been there before, and you'll be alright. When I'm driving, I don't care. It's time to get gone, get gone, get gone, get gone. I'm traveling all night. Get gone, get gone, get gone, get gone. I'm traveling all night. Get gone, get gone, get gone. I'm traveling all night. Get gone, get gone, get gone. I'm traveling all night.